Conference, colleagues, brothers and sisters, we nearly did it. We really did nearly do it. Who would have thought that this time last year we'd be here in Brighton, having been just a hair's breadth away from the keys to Downing Street. The snap election that Mrs. May said time after time after time that wouldn't happen, saw us do something which political pundits said was impossible. We won the support of nearly 13 million people, the best vote for Labour in nearly 20 years. We achieved the biggest increase in Labour's share vote since 1945. And what's important is we denied the Tories an overall majority. At conference, we turned the tide in Scotland, gaining 6 seats. And let me say this, 6 fantastic new MPs from north of the border, and there's much and more to come when the next election is called. We achieved our best share of the vote in Wales for over 20 years. At conference, we succeeded in changing the political landscape. We changed political debate here in the UK. And just over a year ago, Theresa May was swept to the leadership of the Tories and the leadership of the country without any democratic election whatsoever. And so emboldened was Theresa May that the architect of austerity, George Gideon Osborne, was kicked out of a cabinet like a dog in the night. Comrades, that was absolutely fantastic. And what a contrast to now, of course. Denied a mandate by the great British public. She's so embattled that she's being led a merry dance by bungling Boris. Bojo, as his name's called. It's so chaotic that the Tory members believe the best choice to replace Theresa May is Jacob Rees-Mogg. Listen, can anybody in here imagine JRM leading this country? Can I see anybody putting their hands up, by the way? You know, it would be funny if it wasn't so serious. But the danger really is the potential that many of our people could pay for the Tory chaos with jobs, with their jobs and their employment. And we cannot allow it to happen. And that's why it's so important that we build on the achievements of our election campaign. And that's why we must continue to campaign. So when the next election is called, we're in pole position. We're in pole position to grab those keys for Downing Street. Now this conference, this is no pipe dream. This is political reality. As I said before, we were nearly there. The Tories and most of the media expected the Labour majorities to crumble and for the party to be destroyed as an electoral force. And on election night, Andrew Marr, that left-wing journalist, said no one expected Corbyn to be such a good campaigner. Andrew, where have you been all Jeremy's life? Conference, Jeremy would be the first one to say that the campaign wasn't a one-person show. But listen, what an exciting campaign to be involved in. And a huge thank you to everyone who knocked on the doors, handed out leaflets. A huge thank you to the staff, volunteers, all who came together as one team at Southside. From the trade unions who mobilised their members to the teams in our offices in Wales and Scotland, in every region, everyone deserves to give themselves a huge pat on the back. And a special thanks to those who came along to our rallies across the UK. I was lucky enough to be part of these wonderful rallies with Jeremy. The one in Gateshead, on Tyneside. I cannot begin to tell you how proud I was looking out at 10,000 people who had been standing there for hours and hours in the pouring down rain with a time on me back, promising to transform society for the many and not the few. And thanks to everyone, because we made politics exciting again. And people contributed to an atmosphere of change. As Ian said in his speech earlier, we came of age digitally in this election, and there's some fantastic statistics to speak for themselves. They're in the report, but I will mention just a few. We had huge increases in our social media reach. For example, Labour's Facebook likes increased 44% to nearly 1 million. And Jeremy's rose to 31% to 1.2 million likes on Facebook. We had a fantastic voter registration campaign that saw more than 2 million visit the Electoral Commission's voter registration site. There's 4 million visitors to Labour's website and 8 million people watching our party political broadcast on the NHS on TV. That's 2 million more viewers than the Great British Bake Off. And listen, none of this could have been done without the finances to match the Tories. Clean money from our own members and clean money from the trade union movement. Colleagues, in just 6 weeks, our supporters gave nearly £4 million in donations. Ordinary members, averaging about £19. That's more than 250,000 donations. And that's on top of the 6.2 million donated by our fantastic trade union affiliates. Comrades, this campaign was positive, it was hopeful, and it was funded by the many, not the few. And we must contrast this with the Tories' campaign. A campaign funded by a handful of super-rich donors, with a leader who was hiding from the voters, and a manifesto that failed even to give the electorate the courtesy of some costings. And as the polls narrowed, the bankruptcy of the Tories was plain to see. All they could do was escalate their scurrilous personal attacks, above all on Jeremy, on John, and on Diane. It was absolutely disgraceful. They need to be brought to book. Conference, the Labour party's had a massive impact since the election. 2 weeks after the election, on the back foot, the Tories' Queen's speech made no mention at all of the wide variety if promises are had in their manifesto. Scrapping the winter fuel allowance for millions of pensioners. If ditching the triple lock, protecting the value of pensions. And can you remember the dementia tax on social care, ditched immediately because of the actions of the Labour Party? And what gets me, conference, what really upsets me is the stealing the food from the mouths of our primary school children. What a disgrace! There wasn't any mention of new grammar schools or of them banning fox hunting. Can you imagine? Can you just imagine, conference? If this is what we can achieve in opposition, can you imagine what we could do, what we could achieve if we had those keys to number 10? We would start building a Britain for the people of this nation. We had a fantastic manifesto, introducing a £10 living wage by 2020. Fantastic for hard-working, ordinary people in this country. Banning 0-hour contracts. Introducing free school meals for all primary school children. And scrapping tuition fees and reinstating maintenance awards. We would give the NHS some money that it needs, and we would tackle the crisis in social care. And we would scrap the public sector pay cap. Can anybody see Theresa May on the Marr show? When Marr asked the Prime Minister of this country why nurses were using food banks and that had a 14% reduction in their wages since 2010. And Theresa May, the Prime Minister of this country, said, well, using food banks is a complex issue. What a load of nonsense, conference. It's not a complex issue. They're not just being paid enough. Simple as that. We would be putting the trade union rights at the heart of the Labour Party agenda. And unlike the Tories, everything we promised in the manifesto was fully costed. And unlike the Tories, we also have a plan for rebuilding this smashed economy. We have a plan for investing in sustainable growth, for investing to create the wealth and decent jobs that would underpin a fairer society. The Tories have been and are continuing to give away tens of billions of pounds through cuts in corporation tax, through cuts in capital gains tax, and in a whole array of other taxes, continuing to give tax breaks for big business and the very wealthy. They say it's to incentivise investment, but that hasn't happened. In every single year of the last 7 years under the Tories, capital investment as a percentage of GDP has been lower than the average under the last Labour government. So, conference, the Tory tax breaks for the rich are not only unfair, they're also not working. Colleagues, conference, this is why we cannot afford to rest on our laurels. Denying the Tories their majority was a great achievement, but it isn't any substitute for winning power. You know, there was 13 million people voted for a message of hope in June. And with Corbyn's Labour Party, millions more can be won over to our cause. We've got to explain to people it doesn't have to be like this. There's better and different alternatives. And by stepping up our campaigning and mobilising our membership, 570,000 members, come on! We can take our message to every city, every town, and every village across this country. Conference, a united party, living off our own values of solidarity, will transform society. It's high time we invested in people and began to instill in this country hope and aspiration. We're heading in the right direction. The Tories are clinging on by their fingertips. The government's propped up by bunging the DUP in excess of £1 billion from that magic money tree, which we often get criticised for having. You know, we'll not forget. We'll not forget, and we'll not forgive the Tories for their actions. Conference, I'm sure that you'll agree with me that the Labour Party are a government in waiting. We're looking to transform the lives of the many and not the few. So a message. Theresa, Jacob, Boudreaux, bring it on! Thank you.